There is a prayer that has no words. It rises before the tongue can form it, before the mind can shape it into language, before the heart even knows it is asking. It begins somewhere deeper than thought, in the marrow, in the silence between heartbeats, in the place where the soul sits quietly in the dark and simply says, enough. It is the prayer of someone who has carried too much for too long. It is the prayer of someone standing at the edge of themselves, looking out at the vast terrain of their own exhaustion and whispering, not to the ceiling, not to the sky, but to whatever is listening beyond both. And something always is. Heaven hears differently than we imagine. We think of it as a place of magnificent light, of grand declarations, of trumpets and thrones, and perhaps it is all of that. But there is something else happening in the corridors of the divine, something quieter, something that most theologies forget to mention. The angels are paying attention, not just to the great movements of history, not just to the turning of ages and the falling of empires. They are paying attention to you, to the specific weight of your specific sorrow, to the exact shape of your particular longing. They gather around moments that seem small to everyone else, but are enormous to you. The night you cried without knowing why, the morning you almost didn't get up, the afternoon you sat in your car in a parking lot and couldn't go inside because something in you had finally quietly broken. They were there. Do not doubt that they were there. And in those moments, something extraordinary happens in the realm that exists beyond what our eyes can see. The angels, who are beings of fire and frequency, who exist in a dimension where love is not metaphor but matter, who have witnessed the birth of stars and the prayers of billions. These beings bring before the throne of heaven a request. It is carried on their wings like something precious and fragile. It is delivered with a kind of urgency that only comes from having watched someone suffer and being unable to intervene without permission. They come before the presence of the Almighty, and they say simply, this one needs peace. And what happens next is what this message is about. Because God does not answer the way the angels expect, God does not always send the peace they requested in the form they imagined. There is no immediate lifting of circumstances. The bills do not disappear. The diagnosis does not change overnight. The relationship does not mend itself by morning. The grief does not evaporate. The loneliness does not suddenly fill. And the angels, who love you with a love you have not yet fully comprehended, wait. And then God, who is the author of all things, who sees the end from the beginning, who holds all of time in a single breath, God responds. And the response is not an explanation. It is not a theology. It is not a doctrine or a decree. The response is a face, your face. God shows the angels your face. Think about what that means. Really sit with that for a moment. When the angels ask for your peace, when they intercede on your behalf before the very source of all existence, God's answer is to show them who you are. As if to say, look at what I made. As if to say, look at what is walking through this fire. As if to say, this one does not yet know what they carry inside them. And I need you to understand why the peace I am sending will look different from the peace they ask for. Because God does not give us peace the way a sedative gives relief. God gives us peace the way a foundation gives stability. Not by removing the storm, but by building something in us that the storm cannot reach. And the angels see your face and they understand. There is a version of you that exists in heaven's record that you have never met. Not because it is far from you, but because it is so close that you cannot see it clearly. It is the version of you that God is always pointing to when the forces of darkness request permission to overwhelm you. It is the version of you that causes even angels to pause. Not because you are perfect, not because you have not sinned, not stumbled, not wandered into places you should not have gone, but because of what you carry in spite of all of that, because of the faith you maintained even when faith felt foolish, because of the love you gave even when love was not returned, because of the mornings you chose to rise when lying down would have been so much easier. Heaven keeps a record of your courage that you yourself have forgotten. The scripture says that the peace of God surpasses all understanding. And we read that and we nod and we think we know what it means. That peace is beyond our comprehension, that is too large for our minds. But there is another reading of that passage, one that lives between the lines. The peace that surpasses understanding is not just peace that is too big for us to grasp. It is peace that arrives in circumstances where understanding says peace should be impossible. It is peace in the middle of the fire. It is peace in the valley of the shadow. It is peace that makes no logical sense, that cannot be explained by your circumstances, that has no rational origin, because it did not come from this world. It was sent, it was dispatched, it was carried to you on the wings of a response to a prayer the angels made on your behalf. You did not even have to pray it yourself. Someone prayed for you, or the angels did, or the Spirit itself interceded with groanings too deep for words. And heaven moved, not because you had it together, not because you had done everything right, but because you were seen. There is a longing in every human soul for one thing, above all other things, though we dress it in 1,000 different costumes. We call it love, we call it success, we call it belonging, we call it purpose, we call it happiness. But underneath all of those names, what we are really longing for is to be seen, truly seen. Not the version of us that we curate for others, not the image we project, not the accomplishments we lead with, but the actual us, the one who is afraid, the one who is tired, the one who wonders sometimes if any of this means anything, the one who prays the same prayer for the 10th year in a row and wonders if it is reaching anywhere at all. That one. That is the one God shows the angels. And when they see it, when they see the fullness of who you are, not edited, not filtered, not cleaned up for presentation, the angels do not turn away. They do not react with disappointment. They do not see what you see when you look at yourself in your worst moments. They see what God sees. And what God sees has never once made him regret making you. I want you to hold that. Because the enemy of your soul has been telling you a story about yourself for a very long time. The story goes like this. You're too broken to be used, too far gone to be restored, too ordinary to be significant, too sinful to be loved, too late to be redeemed. And you have been rehearsing that story so long that it sounds like your own voice saying it. It sounds like truth. It sounds like self-awareness. It sounds like humility. But it is a lie dressed in the clothes of introspection. Heaven has a completely different story about you. The heaven that knows you by name. The heaven that assigned angels to you, not as a formality, but as a necessity, because what you carry and what you are called to do required a specific kind of covering. The heaven that recorded the night you almost gave up and came back anyway. The heaven that has not for one single moment taken its eyes off your life, even when you felt most invisible, even when the silence felt most absolute, even when the prayers felt like they were dissolving into empty air before they reached the ceiling. You were never, not once, unseen. This is the message the angels want to bring you today. Not a message of condemnation, not a report of your failures, not a reminder of everything you still have not figured out. This is the message that comes directly from the throne room, carried on the frequency of pure love. Delivered into the deepest chamber of your heart, you are the answer to a question heaven has been asking for a long time. You are the response to a need that existed before you were born. You are not an accident of biology or an afterthought of the universe. You were a specific and intentional creation, designed with particular gifts, positioned in a particular time, placed in a particular story, because someone, somewhere, needed what only you could bring. And the peace you have been asking for is already on its way. Not the peace of everything going right, not the peace of all problems solved and all questions answered, but the peace that says, I know who holds me. The peace that says, I have been through fire before, and I came out of it carrying something I did not have going in. The peace that says, I do not understand what is happening, but I trust the one who does. The peace that is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of something greater than the trouble. The peace that makes you dangerous to every force that has been betting on your breakdown. Because when a person finds that peace, the real peace, the heaven-sent peace, the kind that cannot be manufactured or performed or sustained by willpower alone, they become immovable. They become the kind of person that darkness cannot calculate. They become the kind of person that looks at a mountain and sees not an obstacle but an invitation. They become the kind of person that other people look at in moments of crisis and feel inexplicably calm because something radiates from them that this world did not give them and this world cannot take. That is who you are becoming. That is what all of this has been for. Not to destroy you, but to build you into someone who can carry what is coming without collapsing. The pressure has been formation. The fire has been refinement. The silence has been preparation. And the peace that is arriving, the peace that God is sending in response to every angel who has ever stood before the throne and said, this one needs peace. That peace is not just for you to enjoy in private. It is a peace that will pour through you into every room you walk into every life you touch, into every person who has been waiting, without knowing they were waiting, for someone exactly like you to arrive. So let it come. Stop bracing for another blow. Stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Stop reading every moment of goodness as a prelude to loss. Heaven is not building you up to knock you down. Heaven is building you up because there are people ahead of you who need to see someone standing when everything said they should have fallen. They asked for peace. And God showed them your face. That means something. That means your face, the one you sometimes avoid in mirrors, the one you sometimes wish looked different or carried less. That face is the answer to a divine request. Your existence is not an accident. Your survival is not luck. Your peace is not random. It is personal. It is targeted. It is sent from a love so vast that even the angels who exist in the presence of that love cannot fully hold it in their understanding. A love that still somehow knows your name. Rest in that today. Not because everything is perfect, not because you have arrived, but because the one who holds everything has never once let go of you. And when the angels asked for your peace, God did not hesitate. He showed them your face. And he smiled.